Today we're going to continue down the path of speaking about and learning about unclean spirits. First, in the first video, we talked about unclean spirits and what they do, what their purpose is. In the second video, we talked about baptism, how everybody needs to get baptized because you replace the old man with the new man. And when you do that, you kick out the original spirit, whatever you're dealing with, and it comes back and it brings back what? 7 more stronger spirits. So when they do come back, we have to fight. We have to defend ourselves. And today we're going to talk about defending ourselves. This is the first weapon. It can be considered a shield. So it could be defense, but the best defense is a strong offense. This is where we are in the chart. So I'm going to run the chart right now. You'll be able to see where we came from and where we're going. We're almost done with this little series or this little season of learning. So we're going to follow Christ's steps and look at when he fasted. We're going to start at Mark 1, verse 9. And it came to pass in those days that Yeshua came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized of John in Jordan. And straightway, coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens opened and the Spirit like a dove descending upon him. So remember, this is Christ being baptized by John, and the Holy Spirit is possessing him. He's becoming possessed of the Holy Spirit. It's diving on him like a dove. Let's keep going. Let's see what happens after he gets possessed by the Holy Spirit, because we know what the unclean spirit does. See, even Christ had to battle the flesh. Everything Christ did, we have to do. Christ had prayers. He said, hey, Father, I pray that you let this cup pass from me. Christ was also tempted of the devil. And this is what we're about to talk about now. So Christ still had to battle the flesh, and the Holy Spirit came and kicked out the spirit of his flesh and possessed him. So let's keep going. Now it says, and there came a voice from heaven saying, Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And immediately the Spirit driveth him into the wilderness. And he was there in the wilderness 40 days, tempted of Satan, and was with the wild beasts, and the angels ministered unto him. So look, from verse 11 to 12, immediately after he was baptized, immediately after he was filled with the Holy Spirit, possessed by the Holy Spirit took him into the wilderness to do what? To be tempted of Satan. So we think that once we get baptized, it's over. It's not over. This is just the beginning. So after you kick out the unclean spirits, after you get baptized and try to put off the old man, your trials will increase, your tribulations will increase. And this is what we're here to talk about. So what is the weapons that Christ used to fight against this, right? So he was immediately led by the Holy Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted. So this is just the overview of the story in Mark. What we're about to do now is get the detail of that story. So we're going to jump down to Luke 4. Let's jump over to Luke 4. We're going to start at verse 1. And we're not going to read the whole thing. We're going to read the beginning of this story and the end of this story. The details we're going to get on the next lesson when we actually talk about weapon 2. But the beginning of the story is what we need, right? The beginning of the story is what we need. So here we go, verse 1. And Yeshua, being full of the Holy Spirit, returned from Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil. So he's full of the Spirit, 40 days tempted of the devil. So what do you think is going to happen to you when you get baptized, after you're baptized and you're full of the Spirit? And for those who've been baptized for a long time, don't worry, because this still applies to you in a certain way. We're going to talk about that in a second, but this still applies to you. We're going to talk about that next, how it applies to you and how you're not out of the woods either. Yeah, you've been baptized. Yeah, you've been fighting for a while, but it's not over yet. Let's keep going. It says, being 40 days tempted of the devil. And in those days, he did eat nothing. So Christ fasted. That means that he fasted for 40 days. And while he was fasting, not after, while he was fasting, he was tempted of the devil. Now watch this. It says, and when they were ended, he afterward hungered. Let's jump down to verse 13. And when the devil had ended all the temptation, he departed from him for a season. So first he started fasting. He fought the devil, overcame the devil, right? Now it says Satan did what? It says, and when the devil had ended all the temptation, he departed from him for a season. So that means that it wasn't over. This is what I'm talking about, or this is what the Bible is talking about, is when it says, hey, after you get rid of the unclean spirit, it goes and it brings back 7 spirits stronger than itself. This means that the temptation of Christ was not over. The temptation of Christ was not over. And what he was tempted with is important, and we will get that. But that's really for next level. That's really for the next lesson. First, let's look at fasting. Christ used fasting to fight the devil. So in verse 2, it says, and in those days he did eat nothing. Now we have to ask, why did Christ fast? Was this just coincidence? Did he fast just because there was no food out there? Or was fasting used as a weapon? Was fasting used with a purpose? Was fasted wielded like a sword or held like a shield? Let's see what they say about fasting, right? When it comes to unclean spirits, we're going to jump over now to Matthew 17, verse 14. Now it says, and when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and sore vexed, for ofttimes he falleth into fire and oft into the water. So what it sounds like is, or what it sounds like and what it is he's trying to burn himself. He's trying to drown himself. This is a spirit, an unclean spirit. So verse 16, and I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Yeshua answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? And bring him hither to me. So Christ said, hey, don't worry. You guys don't have the faith it takes right now. Just bring him over here. Verse 18. And Yeshua rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. So Yeshua rebuked the devil. So that means that he did what? He spoke to the devil. The same way he did what? Same way he spoke to the devil where? On the mountain. We'll get that next time. That's weapon number 2. It's really the main weapon, but we're going through it in steps, right? So he started fasting as a defense, as a weapon. Let's keep going. Verse 19. Then came the disciples to Yeshua apart and said, why could not we cast him out? Verse 20. And Yeshua said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto the mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. So the morning he said, hey, the first thing you need is faith, right? This is the second thing you need, or the second thing that has to be done. He said, you need faith, right? But let's see what the other person needs. It says, howbeit, this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. And this is one of those verses that get misconstrued. Christ isn't saying that the disciples have to pray and fast to get this spirit out of this kid, this boy. What he's saying is that the boy has to pray and fast, saying, hey, so let's just think about it. When you're going through something and you're talking to your pastor, you're talking to your spiritual leader, whoever you're talking to, right? And they say, hey, you say, I'm looking for these answers. They might say what? Hey, take a couple days, go into prayer. I want you to fast. I want you to fast, right? The pastor doesn't fast for you. You fast for yourself. This is the same thing that Christ is saying. Hey, this spirit you can't beat this spirit unless you fast. See, fasting has a distinct purpose. When you fast, right, just think about your body and what takes place. There's going to be chemical reactions. There's going to be pain, right? So let's just say you're fasting from food, and along with food, you fast from all things that you intake. So whether that be alcohol, whether that be whatever you do, right? So as you fast, you're expecting for this to hurt a little bit. You're expecting to be uncomfortable. But because you're being uncomfortable for the Most High, you're able to manage it through. Say, hey, I'm going to suffer through this for this fast. I'm going to suffer through this for the Most High. I'm going to suffer through this so that I could potentially get some answers. And what happens is that the reason why you're feeling pain, the reason why you're suffering is because your body is used to chemicals. Even when you just take a fast from social media, every time you swipe, endorphin, serotonin, oxytocin, your brain is spitting out chemicals. And as you go through social media, you read and you search, your brain is being filled with these chemicals. And when you stop feeding your brain these chemicals, it hurts. It's uncomfortable. It's hard to make it through it. But when you're in a mind frame of fasting, you're willing to go through it because you're doing it for the Most High. Now, let's just say you weren't in a mind frame of fasting, right? Let's think about when you normally stop eating or you haven't eaten a meal. What happens? Your brain is missing them chemicals. And most people get a little cranky. Most people get a little irritable. Why? You just got to ask yourself, why? What's causing you to get irritable? It's a lack of chemicals. Every time you eat, your brain has chemicals. There's reward chemicals. That's why people like good food. That's why people like to eat different things from time to time. So this is all a part of addiction. So, and not addiction, and addiction can be bad, but addiction is also good. The Most High made us in a way that we have habits. And if we do things for a certain amount of time, these habits are really chemical dependencies. So if you're used to working out every day, and then you go a couple of days without working out, you're going to feel a difference in most people will feel a difference in their body. Most people will feel a difference in their mental. Why? Because they're used to getting this runner's high. They're used to getting this pump. When you pump, you look in the mirror, you're looking at your arms, and there's chemicals involved in this process. And I'm going to be posting up these chemicals while I'm talking, just so you guys understand what I'm talking about. So when we withdraw from something, we have to remember that the reason why we want to do something, the reason why we have a habit of doing something, right? Even if it's something as simple as having a blanket with us and we rubbing on a blanket. You see kids rubbing on a blanket. That's because they're missing comfort. And that blanket, them rubbing on that blanket is releasing chemicals into their mind. Chemicals of what? It's comfort chemicals. It can get real deep, and just talking about brain chemicals in itself is a 2-hour video. So I'm just trying to stay on point, but I'm just also trying to say, hey, so why is fasting so important? Fasting is just important because we're preparing ourselves for long suffering. So if we don't prepare ourselves for long suffering, and we have this lacking chemicals, we're most likely going to replace it with something else. So let's just say let's say somebody smokes a lot. They smoke weed a lot, and they say, hey, I'm trying to quit weed. A lot of times, what do they? So they're quitting weed, right? But not for the Most High, just because they want to do it. When they quit weed, they'll find a different substance. They might start vaping. They might start drinking more. But they're replacing that habit, that chemical dependency, with another chemical dependency. But when you go into your fast for the Most High, people tend to skip that replacement step because they're cutting everything off. Now, I will talk about this later, but there's multiple types of fasts and they do different things. So let's just keep going. Next thing we're going to look at is 1 Corinthians 2. Now, the Bible is covering everything, but the question is, can we see it covering everything? The Bible is also covering how the body reacts when it doesn't have something it's used to. And this is a great example. We're going to start at verse 1. 1 Corinthians 7, verse 1. And this is a great example. This is dealing with one of the unclean spirits. This unclean spirit is called what? Lust. And fasting is just supposed to put everything back in order. Fasting is so everything, all of the unclean spirits are something healthy that's done out of proportion, that's done excessively, including lust. Lust is typically a healthy thing when it's done in order. So if you lust after your wife, you desire your wife, and you make her your wife, and you go in order, you follow all the steps, and you desire for her to become your wife, and she becomes your wife, and now you lust after her sexually, that's a good thing. A man who findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So you desire your wife before she is your wife. You lust after her. So let's keep going. It's just when it gets out of when it gets out of proportion, is that when it gets bad. When David lusts after Bathsheba. And if he lusted and sinned not and repented, that'd be one thing. But then his desire got out of control to where he sent her husband off to the front line, and he died, and then he took her. So all I'm saying is that everything is okay when it's done in order. Let's keep going. Now it says, verse 1, 1 Corinthians 7, verse 1. Now concerning the things thereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. So the reason why Paul is saying this to the church of Corinthians is because he knows once you touch a woman, he don't even have to mention the chemicals that's happening in your brain, but this is what's happening. Once you touch a woman, it's in the loins as well. Once you touch a woman, chemicals go off, and you open a floodgate that is hard to close or almost impossible to close except through what? Prayer and fasting. And even then, the season is going to be seasonal. You might be over it for a little bit, but the desire is coming back. So, hey, it is best for what? It is good for a man not to touch a woman. If you can hold off until what? She's yours. Let's keep going. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife. So, hey, man, it's good for you to not touch a woman and not open that floodgate. But if you have touched a woman, if you have opened that floodgate and you were not able to hold off, don't do it in fornication. Go ahead and do what? Marry that woman. Go ahead and marry that woman. Let's keep going. Now it says, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence. I thought it's a little gnat or something, a fly. Due benevolence. So let's see what due benevolence is. So due benevolence refers to the marital obligation of spouses to fulfill each other's needs and rights, particularly in the context of affection and intimacy. So, hey, due benevolence is like, hey, when your wife needs to be pleased, please her. Why? Because there's chemicals telling her, there's hormones, there's estrogen. When a husband needs to be pleased, please him. Why? Because there's chemicals going off in his body. There's a desire increasing. There's testosterone. It's building up. So it says, hey, don't deprive your husband, and men, don't deprive your wives. So let's keep going. Now it says, and likewise, the wife unto the husband. The wife have not power of her own body, but the husband. And likewise, also the husband have not power of his own body, but the wife. So it said, hey, when your wife need affection, when your wife need love, your wife needs some time, give it to her. And when you need affection as a man, and when you need time as a man, the wife should give it to him. So verse 5, it says, defraud ye not the other, except it be with consent for a time. So it's saying, hey, if you're going to deny, so let's just look. Wait, I get to it. So if you're going to deny your husband of sex, or if a husband is going to deny his wife of sex, only do it for a short time. Why? Because Paul knows that there's chemicals in the body, there's hormones, there's things building up. And eventually, one way or another, we don't want them to get out of control. We don't want them to do what? Get out of order. Let's keep going. Now it says, defraud ye not one the other, except it be with a consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer. See, it keep bouncing back, fasting and prayer. This is because when you're not in a mindset of fasting and prayer, and you're just willy-nilly not having sex or getting intimacy and affection from your wife, you're going to look for it. There's a strong possibility that you're going to look for it somewhere else. If your wife isn't getting intimacy and affection from her husband, a strong possibility eventually she could be susceptible, unless they're in the mindset of what? Fasting and prayer. And they're going through this discomfort. They're going through this long suffering. They're going through this pain for a reason. But when you put yourself in a mindset of doing something for the Abba, you're able to hang in there longer. But if it's just, hey, I'm just not doing it just because we ain't getting along. I don't like the way she cooking. I don't like the way she talking to me. Or I don't like the way he talking to me. I don't feel like cooking. I don't feel like doing whatever he want me to do for him. Hey, that's why husband and wives got to be on the same page, especially when it comes to this type of thing. So it says that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. So let's see what incontinency is, right? Incontinency in a biblical context refers to a lack of self-control, particularly in relation to sexual desires and behaviors. So let's read that again. It says that Satan tempt you not for your lack of control in sexual desires. So Paul knows how strong these chemicals are. He knows how strong these habits are. This is why he warned at the beginning. Hey, it's better for you to not to even open this box, not to even go down this path if you can withhold it, because it's hard to fight the flesh, right? There's a law in my members that is in disagreement with the law of the Most High, right? So let's keep going. Verse 6, he says, but I speak this by permission and not of commandment. So he said, hey, this is my word speaking to you. It's not a commandment that don't have sex or do none of this stuff. But if you can refrain from it, do so. Let's keep going. It says, for I would that all men were even as I myself. So he's saying, I'm able to hold off from sex. I wouldn't tell you to do nothing that I'm not doing. It says, but every man hath his proper gift of the Most High, one after this manner and another after that. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. So if y'all can stay single, the unmarried and the widows, it is good. But if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. So it is better to be married and get your sexual desires and your lust out with each other than to burn and do it out of order and fornication, right? Now verse 10, and unto the married I command, not yet I, but the Lord. Now he said, hey, this part came from the Most High. This one is not me. It says not yet I, it said yet not I, but the Most High. Let not the wife depart from her husband, but and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. In the context of what we just said before, when it says, hey, let not the wife depart from her husband, it's saying, hey, your husband needs you, especially for this matter. You need your husband, especially for this matter. And it says, but if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband. So, hey, if you go and you leave for this matter and you depart and you go ended up with somebody else because what? Of your incontinency, of your inability to remain sexually dormant, it's better for you to go back to your husband to get with somebody else because you try to be single or you try to remove yourself from your husband and now you're falling into a lust with somebody else. It's better for you not to do that and get back with your husband. This is the main thing. And I believe this is one of the hardest things for us to get over, is because this is one of the first laws that the Most High put in us. The first law is what? be fruitful and multiply. So we're supposed to be multiplying. The races, our race and our lineages are supposed to go forward because he needs us to fulfill prophecy. He needs the word to keep going because his word is true. But anyhow, even Paul is saying it's almost impossible for us to overcome this unclean spirit of lust without prayer and fasting. Only time that we can overcome it is during prayer and fasting. So what does that mean? We have to take all the other steps, which means getting married, which means being in order to keep ourselves in order and out of what? Sin and out of fornication, if you're not able to hold off. So now what we're going to do, that was just one of the unclean spirits. We're going to look at some of the unclean spirits briefly. We're not going to go into as deep of a dive as we went into with lust, but we are going to look at it. So now we're talking about fasting as a weapon against unclean spirits. So number one, what does fasting do, right? Fasting trains you to be okay with going without. So fasting gets you into this mindset, hey, just because I don't have it at this moment doesn't mean I won't be okay. So just because I don't have sex at this moment doesn't mean I can't make it back to my wife, or I can't wait for my wife to come back in town, or I can't wait to get back in town to my wife to have sex. I don't have to turn to other means, right? I'm just using lust because this is one that we looked at. This is one that we already talked about, right? So there's a couple different types of fasts. Well, I'm going to talk about two. There's a bunch of different types of fasts. I'm going to talk about two. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the total fast. And this fast works for training you how to just be still, how to just do nothing, right? Yes, there's food in the kitchen. Yes, there's water downstairs in the kitchen. But guess what? I'm not going to get it. Yes, there's opportunity. So it's training you to be in this type of mindset, right? Yes, there's opportunity for me to go out and do something that I would like to do. But guess what? I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I could go get something to eat. Yeah, I could basically turn these stones into bread. But guess what? I'm not going to do it. Why? Because I'm on a fast for the Most High. I'm on a fast for these answers. I'm on the fast for a spiritual journey. So this is just something, that's one type of fast. All right, it's called just a total fast. You just fast from everything. No water, no nothing. And it's just, I call it the be still fast, right? So it's be still versus be satisfied. All right, the be still fast is the total fast. The be satisfied fast is the bread and water fast. And I typically like to do this type of fast with what? Flat bread, the same bread that we have on the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And it's basically just flour, water, a little bit of salt, and some honey. And it's a great little unleavened bread that my wife makes. It's amazing, actually. And I love it. I like it a lot. And what happens, though, is when you go on your fast and you have this thing that you like, this thing that you love, you enjoy eating during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And it's tasty. It's savory. And now you're on this fast. You might go, this fast is easier to extend out a little bit more. You're really only supposed to have the bread and water in the morning. But if you really need it, you can go back and get more. But what happens is that you get on this fast for bread and water, and it's like, okay, I'm on this bread and water fast. I just had bread and water. Do I want more bread and water? Yes, I'm starting to get hungry, but I'm low-key getting tired of bread and water. And then sometimes you might say, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna chill. I don't even feel like eating bread and water. Like, other options for you to go, it's an option for you to go get something else. But guess what? That's totally off the menu. If you're hungry, eat your bread and water. See, this is the be satisfied fast. This is be satisfied with what you have. So when it comes to greed, hey, this is what I have. I don't have to, I can be satisfied with my bread and water. See, this type of fast is training you how to be satisfied with what I have. I don't always got to go shopping. I don't always got to go get some more. I don't always got to be on the chase for excess. I'm happy where the Most High has me, and when it's time for me to get my promotion, it's time for me to get my increase, I will have it. But for now, I have what? Bread and water. I'm happy with my wife. Yes, she's a steak. I've been eating steak every night. I've been eating bread and water every day. Do I want more bread and water? Well, guess what? It don't matter if you want more bread and water. What you have is bread and water. If you want it, go get it. If not, chill out. And you'll see when you go on this fast, it's a totally different feeling than the fast where you don't have anything at all, because you can eat if you want to, but you can only eat this one thing. And this is the same thing for a man that has one wife. You can eat if you want to, but you only eat this one thing. Only consume your wife. Don't consume anybody else's wife, anybody else's daughter. This is what you have. So, these are the two type of fasts that I believe apply to these unclean spirits. And depending on which one you're going against or which one you're dealing with determines what fast you have to use.